OG Rose here, and today we're going to be talking about Section 8 of Belonging again, and we're going to finish out our reflection on Conyers. And he talks about how today we're caught between both the sensation that we are utterly alone, that we're not connected with anything, but at the same time that we have the ability to change the world as we want. So as the state grows and local communities lose their power to ground us, this can make us feel like we don't know anybody, that we're alone, we're isolated, that we're not connected with anything. But precisely because the state is growing, we feel like there's a collection of power that if we could only tap into or get our guy in office, then we could fix the world and make it a better place. So we're in this sort of, I guess you could even say, double consciousness almost, to use Du Bois' phrase, where we're swing between these extremes of this almost godlike omnipotence, and then simultaneously this sense of lowly, incapable individualism. And this can't really be healthy. It doesn't seem like this is healthy for a society. And caught moving between these extremes, where one day we think New Jerusalem is possible, and the next we think the apocalypse is nigh. This might contribute to the emergence of a black swan event, as was alluded in the last section, that could make the trade-off of shrinking local communities for a growing state not a good trade-off. We could have some unintended consequence. For Conyers, one of the ways we might learn to strive for some psychological balance is to integrate some humility into our lives, and this is distinct from tolerance. He does not think tolerance is going to help us psychologically stabilize ourselves between the two extreme poles that I outlined. He thinks we need some humility. And humility is not a state where you think there is no truth and that it's all just taste and preference, like he believes tolerance makes people think. Instead, humility is the understanding that there's a whole lot out there we can't know, but there are things we can know, that people hold different first principles and axioms by which they live their lives, and that there's something we can learn from them, and that we should listen and not necessarily ask them to abandon their first principles, but also at the same time not just act like what we believe is wrong so that they like us and feel tolerated. There's a sense in tolerance where you don't tolerate someone unless you stress that what you believe probably is wrong and that they're probably right. And for Conyers, this isn't healthy, because if everyone is led to feel as if they're not truly tolerating people or accepting people unless they give up their beliefs for the beliefs of the other, then this is inevitably going to have some sociological backlashes. People are going to eventually backlash and get upset, and they're going to feel like their beliefs are trampled on and that they're not allowed to believe what they think is right, because if they do, then they're not accepting. This also, I think, is similar to the substantive democracy we're going to talk about later with John Hunter. Humility for Conyers entails a mutual commitment to truth, where all sides involved in the discussion are committed to their truths, where without necessarily claiming the truths don't matter, without weakening the truths. And also with that, Conyers thinks if we have humility, we're not going to necessarily be so quick to think that we should seize the state and use it to reshape the world in our own image, because there's so much more for us still to learn from other people, and who are we to assume that we know what's best and control others? It's much more open to correction, and thus there's going to be hesitancy to want to remake the world in the way that we see fit, or hesitancy to solve certain problems with our idea of how to solve them. Now, this could contribute to injustice or contribute to poor people staying poor and the rich getting rich because we're hesitant to do anything, but it also could keep us from committing unintentional consequences. But there are admittedly potential trade-offs there. But does tolerance necessarily help us fix that trade-off? Not necessarily. You could still have the same trade-off, but the disposition of humility is arguably more healthy. And also, if you believe in truth, then you still have a groundwork for communities in which you will not be the isolated self. So humility does seem to have more potential to find a middle ground between the neurosis, the two poles of neurosis that a growing state can put us in, where we where we think we're omnipotent, but then we also feel very disconnected. So now we're going to get into, is there really evidence to suggest that tolerance is causing some unintended consequences or shutting down community and freedom in ways that Conyers fears? And we're going to discuss Kindly Inquisitors by Jonathan Rauch next in Section 9. For more, please visit ogrose.com, and thank you for your time.